Hello, everybody. First, we're going to scan the room. So, let's get everybody in there. It's Chasen, Aubrey, Kayla, Jeremiah, and Tia. And she's holding the baby so the baby doesn't freak out because the baby's freaking out today. And then here I am. So, one second. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to thank you so much for coming out and engaging in this conversation and about welfare reform. In particular, we're going to be talking about whether or not people that receive government benefits should be mandatorily drug tested, which I find to be a fairly reasonable thing to have happen. So I have a couple questions to ask you in regards to this, just to kind of get some feedback on it, make you start thinking about how important this issue is. Have you guys ever been in a Walmart line or at Safeway or whatever doing your grocery shopping, and you're standing behind a lady that has 5 kids running around, and she has 2 buggies full of steak and lobster and all this stuff that you can't afford to buy on your salary, and then she goes to pay for it, and she whips out her EBT card, which is a standard card that's issued for food stamps, and pays for it on your tax dollars. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that, but how does that make you feel? Feedback?
Like I'm working for other people to
Working
pay
for other
off.
people, yeah. Yeah, or if you have ever, here's a different scenario. Let's say you have to go and talk to one of your kids' friends' parents, and they just happen to live in low income. And you have to go and talk about a major issue with their child, and you feel disgusted and sort of saddened that, you know, the education system has done them wrong because you can't engage in a conversation with them because they just don't understand and they can't get the broad perspective and, you know, fulfill in any conversation with you because they were very uneducated. Has any of that ever happened to anybody and you're just like, oh, this is so frustrating, why does this happen? Yes, it happens all the time.
I've never really gone to my friend's parents' house and like had to have a conversation with them.
But yeah, you can get the gist of it,
understand.
okay. So I, for one, feel like something should be done other than paying for the lifestyle and encouraging illiteracy and ignorance. I think that something definitely should be done. A recent study by Michael Tanner and Charles Hughes at the Cato Institute quoted saying that current welfare system provides such a high level of benefits that it acts as a disincentive for work. A disincentive for work. That means that people are getting more money doing nothing, sitting on their butts at home, but they don't want to work. They don't have to work. So why should they work? Okay? We want to talk about some personal experiences and why there should be opportunity implemented, and how I know there are opportunities that are implemented in communities that can stop this ongoing problem. Me personally, I used to own a thrift store up in Fort Collins, and I partnered very closely with Larimer County Workforce Services because they had an initiative where you would work for your welfare dollars, especially those that are getting towards the end of their program benefits. They were required, or I don't know necessarily required, but they were expected to learn different job skills. And so the people of Larimer County Workforce Services would go out in the communities and talk and partner with owners and CEOs of companies and develop a program so that these people can come in and work for you and get these detrimental skills that would take them out and make them successful in the community. So they would come to work for me, and I would teach them all the skills such as operations, production, registers, customer service, normal retail experience work that they would take with them in their life. And in turn, Larimer County would subsidize me for their payroll. So I would be reimbursed their payroll so that I wouldn't have to bear that burden while they were training. So it was good for everybody. It was good for Larimer County because they wouldn't have people that were constantly on welfare that were sucking the life out of the system. That gives a accountability, like they only had a certain amount of time to be on welfare before those benefits were cut off, and it made them go out and do something and take initiative and learn something, you know, for the benefit of their future. So that was my personal experience. with people that are on welfare and why it's so important to drug test them, because it's an identification process. If we can identify these people through the drug testing programs, then we'd be able to get them better equipped to handle their life in the future. So with this preview, is I'm trying to get your buy-in. I want to get your buy-in that you guys would agree with me that it is so important for mandated work for welfare initiative implemented in every county, in every community, in every state in the United States. For a couple different reasons. It'll ease the burden of those that are gainfully employed, such as, Tia and you guys. Once you guys become gainfully employed, it definitely eases the burden and sort of changes that stigma and the way that we think about that. It also promotes sustainability for those of limited means. So if you are one of those people that are struggling to make ends meet, or you're, you've grown up in generational poverty where, it's typical that those people abuse drugs, sell drugs, get different kinds of income in there, it sort of changes that outlook for them and creates sustainability so they can change the course of the future for their families. And it also builds confidence. People that work, that do really well for themselves, have better confidence. They feel better about themselves. They like to be productive members of society. It's just the norm of it all. Once you start working, it's very positive for them. So as mentioned earlier, people view welfare as an economic stability in times of the minimum wage that doesn't cover living expenses. For example, I don't know if you guys know this, but in Colorado, the minimum wage is $7.76, and that's raised. Back when I was, starting out work, minimum wage was $4.50. So $7.76 might sound pretty good. However, people that make $0, okay, that get welfare, okay, so they bring nothing to the table, they make $26,936 annually. That computes to $12 an hour. So people can go out and get a job, and if they don't have the education, they lack the education or the skills, then they're going to get a minimum paying job, which is $7.76 an hour. When they can sit around on welfare, smoking dope or doing whatever kind of drugs come their way, teaching their kids that this is the norm, and they'll get $12 an hour. And that's not even the high end of it. There's 13 states in the United States where the minimum on welfare computes to about $15 an hour. That's double what Colorado minimum wage is for people that actually go out and are trying to better themselves. And working mothers, that come from generational poverty backgrounds, that their mothers did drugs, sold drugs, had alcohol problems, then it would be quite notable that you would have those same issues. So you'd stay at home, collect welfare at $12 an hour, do drugs with your children, teach them that way of life, and then it's this ongoing cycle. But we have to give you the highest award needs to go to Hawaii. Okay, Hawaii, those great people, if you want to sit around on welfare and do drugs or sell drugs or whatever, they make over $60,000 a year. So we have all these people that are here. We should send them out down to Hawaii, where there's that tropical paradise of free living, because that computes to a lot of money. So it's not advantageous to work for your money anymore. It's more advantageous to sit around being depressed, having substance abuse problems and living off of the system, okay? So we've talked about why people stay in these situations. Let's talk about the dilemmas from supporting these thought processes and outlooks, okay? We end up rewarding the undoer, okay? So people that don't do anything, they're getting rewarded for not doing anything at all. They're not even taxed on their income, which makes people that do pay taxes fairly disheartened because they're like, well, I pay taxes, but they're not paying taxes, on the money that is given to them, not even taxed on it, okay? It also it incentivizes people to develop habits that make it difficult to find work in future employment opportunities. So all of a sudden, they don't know how to interview. They don't know how to fill out a resume. They don't know how to engage in the process of that. So it just creates this whirlwind circle of not being able to be functional. It also helps that generational poverty that we've been discussing, and it just creates an ongoing pattern of generational poverty. Now, in 1996, President Bill Clinton enacted the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act, and what that act entailed was that people had to work for their benefits if they were receiving cash benefits. Okay, well, there's lots of other benefits. Cash benefits aren't the only benefits. Okay, you have food stamps, you have housing, you have TANF, you have many other LEAP, which helps you with your heating. So there's lots of other programs in welfare that people are taking advantage of. And so they thought that this program was working. In all actuality, people were like, okay, fine, we have to work to get cash. We won't get the cash anymore. Instead, we will apply for all these other programs where it's not mandatory that you work to receive those benefits. So the program actually didn't really work. And unfortunately, these kinds of programs, LEAP, welfare in general, are the fastest growing part of government spending. So us as working individuals get really uptight and we blame it on Obama, we blame it on this person and that person, when in all actuality, it's not really them that are hurting our society, it's the people that sit around depressed, substance abuse users that continually bleed off of our government funding programs. So some of the good things that could come from drug testing individuals that are on welfare is that it would stop the reoccurrence of generational poverty, like we have discussed earlier. Do you guys remember what generational poverty is? Did we discuss that?
Yeah.
It's at least two decades worth of families being impoverished. So that would mean I would be impoverished, my daughter would be impoverished, and her daughter would be impoverished. And they consider it generational poverty. And it's a taught thing. So it also, as we mentioned, it would build confidence. And if you have the confidence to go out and do what you need to do and make ends meet and be a productive part of society, then you're more encouraged to do it. And it's likely that generational poverty will stop. It also encourages economical growth and sustainable communities, because if you're getting money from the community in which you live in by working, then you're going to spend that money in your community. It's less likely that you're going to sit out on your front porch drinking 40 ounces of Old English, smoking joints, and being the boil on the butts of society. So also we can implement the Swedish way that they look at welfare reform, and they tax everybody. Like mentioned before, the United States only taxes the working man, but doesn't tax the people on welfare. Well, in Sweden, they tax everybody. And so you can't really go out and say, well, my hard-earned dollars, my tax money is going to go put steak and lobster on your plate, when really, everybody pays into the system. And so if you have to go on welfare, then you go on welfare, but it disincentivizes that, and they don't stay on it for very long because they're paying for themselves to live regardless. So we've talked about how encouraging the behavior of entitlement hurts the government and the taxpayer, but it also hurts those that are seeing this as a normal way to live, people that are on the welfare system. And by requiring more drug testing, they gain value and gaining value in education or having jobs during this period, it strengthens their values. Some people don't even have values. They don't even know what a value is. They don't know what they feel. It also encourages nuclear families. And if you guys don't know what a nuclear family is, because they're kind of obsolete anymore these days, but they're families that stick together. There's 2 parents in the home and there's 2.5 kids and a dog. Okay, and they sit around the dinner table at night and eat, and they typically call them the Donna Reed families. Okay, it decreases divorce, and you have stronger moral and ethical codes. So it really encourages what you believe in and how you feel, and would strengthen also our society as a whole. Okay? It also decreases statistical truths that coincide with impoverished families. So that's another good reason why we should be doing this. So I hope that you guys all will bind with me and rip off this Band-Aid of this continuum of bleeding of the society of people living, on welfare and not being held accountable and, doing drugs. I definitely think that if we change the way that we think about these things, the things that we're thinking about with them will also begin to change. So hopefully y'all will bind with me and agree that drug testing should be a part of mandatory drug testing should be a part of the welfare reforming system, so that we can, stop these debts, encourage people to do better in their lives, and build communities. So anybody have any questions? I can also take questions if anybody has any at this time.
Well, if they did decide to drug test people that are on welfare and they came up like they were on drugs, what would happen?
There's lots of different things that would happen. They would be required to go to substance abuse classes, which is very, very important because it gives them the opportunity to get off of the substance abuse so they can be more progressive parts of society. So it's not like they cut off their funding altogether, but they'd be giving an opportunity to go to substance abuse programs, and if they don't adhere to those, then their welfare or program assistance would be cut off at that point. Any other questions? No? Okay, well, thank you so much for listening to this, and hopefully I got your buy-in. Let's kind of take a scan of the room, and you guys can tell me whether or not you guys agree with this or you disagree with it. So let's start with Chaselyn. There she is. Chaselyn, do you agree or disagree?
I guess I agree.
Okay. Aubrey?
Agreed.
Agreed.
I also agree.
You agree?
Agree.
You agree, Jeremiah and Tia?
Hands down, agreed.
Yeah, strongly agree.
Very
and
strongly.
yeah, and I
She-
think the baby
she's on my
agrees.
side.
Yeah. So thank you so much and have a good night.